fucking go.
Welcome, everybody. This is the April 2026 Toronto Electronic Music Meetup, going strong since 11 years ago. So do the math there. 2015, I want to say. You can actually see it on Meetup. Keep me honest. But yeah, going for so long that we've lost track. As I usually mention, we were before the COVID times, and the land long, long ago were in person, and since then we went virtual. But we do get together from time to time. As a matter of fact, we did have somewhat related event last Friday at the Wiggle Room. Although Temper Events Inc. is now an actual legit company that's separate, so I'm going to eventually change the emails and Twitch channel, even have one dedicated to temp, because I realize it's could be confusing, you know what I mean? But yeah, it was a really good time for all that attended. We measure our success by how happy the crowd and participants, and including myself, had a blast. Really great music. And it was amazing to spend some time as well with a professional international artist, aka DJ Bailey from the UK. So it was a real pleasure uh, being able to witness his skills in person.
Mm.
And especially, coming up from a 7-hour flight, goes back to his hotel room for a few hours to sort out his music, comes back to the venue at midnight or whatnot, and does a 2-hour set and just blows everyone away. And it just goes to show you what a real pro you got to be to do something like that and make it look easy. So I really appreciate it. And plus, being a super, super modest, nice guy, and just an absolute, legend in drum and bass, and a real champion of art and culture. He's very involved actually in his local community and helping other people, and so it was really good to see someone who's basically famous and yet just very down to earth, and no, not that you would expect it. Most professionals, they don't have drama and all that stuff, but just to say he's like, like there's different temperaments, right? He's on the scale over there with the Dalai Lama in terms of the chill factor, like just very, very chill. He told me a story because there was, always things can happen and sometimes do happen, and you're in a live environment, and you know, someone spilled beer on his laptop in the middle of a DJ set. And to actually not at our event, he was describing a past event,
Mm.
but to handle that situation calmly and without freaking out, I was like, wow, okay, you're on like the far end of like chill, because most people, even a very calm person, might not handle that so well. You know what I mean? But he's like, oh, I just turned my laptop right away, drained it out. Like, really? Wow, I would have been freaking out. You know what I mean? So props to him for leading by example, I would say, and actually to everyone involved, everyone that showed up.
Was there a good turnout, Lenny?
Yeah, yeah, I would say around 120
Mm-hmm.
Mm. Oh,
approximately.
wow.
Great.
So the venue was happy, the
Mhm.
participants were happy, the MCs, DJs were happy. So it was a very good vibe. You know what I mean? And we had the 4 a.m. last call. and we went all the way to 5 in the morning. So it's nice, you know. It's kind
Mm.
of like sometimes you're just getting into things at 3 in the morning or whatever, and it's like, okay, they slam the door on you kind of deal, right? And you got to rush to get all the equipment unhooked. And I just got to give props to the Wiggle Room for handling that part very, very well. And secondly, you can get a $6 blue ribbon. So where can you get a beer for $6 in Toronto these days? You know what I mean? So
Mhm.
they got affordable drink menu for those that, want something more fancy. It's available. You know what I mean? But it's nice to see that they understand business. It's like, why turn away business? You can stay open till 4 in the morning. Why wouldn't you do that? You know what I mean? I don't understand people that are like, oh, we're gonna rent a warehouse, and then they shut down at 3. Like, what? Anyway, pet peeve of mine. People are spending good money, but you want to give them value for that money, right? So I think people really did appreciate though everything, and sometimes things work out. You know what I mean? You put your all into it. Um, I was thinking about a sports analogy earlier, whereby imagine you have a big playoff game, and you go in there and you play it safe rather than playing your normal game. You kind of switch it up a little bit, and then you lose the match or you lose the game. And it's like that would gotta be the worst feeling because you didn't even play your game and you lost. At least if you play your game, you know what I mean? And it doesn't work out. At least you know you played your game, right? And I feel like that's what you got to do when it comes to live events. Do what you really, really, really want to do and believe in, and represent what you're about rather than try to like play it safe, in my humble opinion. And you know, sometimes that doesn't work out. I admit it, but sometimes it does. You know what I mean? And when it does, hey, it's great. So yeah, I'm glad, and I got to give big, big credit to Juan, aka DJ Dextra, my partner in crime, who really did a lot of the legwork. He's a real veteran of the scene, and we did all kinds of flyering. So I don't think there was a drum and bass aficionado in Toronto that didn't know about this party, because we were at every party giving physical flyers, posters in the bathrooms. You know what I mean? People knew about it, heard about it, were excited about it. We had a lot of good energy, and it's an old school way to do it, but if you really think about it, people who are interested in that music are going to be at another drum and bass event. Like, you know what I mean? So yeah, you could. We did. We put flyers up on the streets. You know what I mean? College Street, Spadina, whatever. But maybe 1 in 100 people even really can kind of register what that flyer is,
Mhm.
and the chances of that person. Although it has happened to me in the past where I'm putting up a flyer and someone comes by and I'm like, oh yeah, man, I'm gonna go to that for sure. And they scan the QR code and they buy tickets right there on the spot. That does happen. But I'm just saying, you gotta really go you gotta go all out, I think, to get the message out there. And so it worked out well. So anyway, just thought I'd fill you in with that one. Um, but yeah, you guys have been here before. It's good to see you again. This meetup was on short notice. I think I only posted it last week or maybe a few days before that. But you guys know that pretty much it's the last Thursday of the month, right? So
Yeah.
even if you don't necessarily see the meetup, you can pretty
Yeah.
much rest assured, that's what it's going to be. In most cases, it could be holidays that might really like just be, forcing us to schedule it earlier or whatever. But for the most part, that's how it's going to be.
I,
And yeah, you can always reach out too. Feel free to shoot me a message on the same email that the mail fence one.
yep. I have a question.
Sure.
Did everyone submit a track except me? I'm just wondering, is there room for another track? Should I send you an email with a track, Lenny?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Sure.
Yeah,
Please
there's only
do.
three of us.
Yep. Okay. You think there'll be time?
Oh yeah, throw it
I
in.
put uh, I
We
put
want
your
to
name on
hear.
the list already, Richard.
Okay.
Even though I didn't see a file. See, yeah,
All
I'm
right.
on. Yeah. So yeah, for sure, for sure. I
Hold
appreciate you asking anyway, Richard. You're a real Southern gentleman. So I appreciate that. But yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and play the good old Marlon Brando video, and be sure to share the sound here.
We meet monthly to listen to electronic music producers, original content, and provide feedback. Each producer is given time for one track. The order of when each producer gets their time to share is chosen randomly via random name picker. Producers are asked to send their links and/or files ahead of time. The email address is in the event details. During the meetup, the presenter will play back each producer's content. After each track, the group does a round table with participants in Zoom and discuss the track.
Alrighty. So yeah, I'll go ahead. And I forgot to kind of, I don't know. I don't really want to add to the long monologue that I said earlier, but I did want to give props again to the DJs and MCs. Did a great job. And also, we had a videographer and a professional photographer who took pictures at the event. So stay tuned for some footage and some pictures. Some really, I think Juan was telling me this photographer was rated like the top photographer in Toronto. I could have that a little bit wrong. I don't know if it was a specific category perhaps, but I saw some of the shots and I was like very, very impressed. So it'd be really great. And we're gonna send some of those pictures off to Bailey as well. But yeah, I'm gonna go ahead now and spin the wheel here and get this party started. Alrighty, go Kai. You are the first up. Anything you want to say about your track beforehand?
Sure. I will jump in. It's a track that I've kind of had in progress for a long time, and it's I feel like I'm kind of stuck. Um, Genre-wise, I'm kind of a music chameleon. Like I I don't know that I have a preferred genre or style. Unlike many people, I think I don't necessarily have a plan when I enter my DAW. I'm kind of like, oh, okay, let's see what happens today. And that's the case with almost all of my tracks. So if anybody ever listened to my like my discography or went to my Spotify or whatever, it's so random. It's so random. Anyway, I'm struggling with this one because there's some parts that I feel are kind of missing content, specifically the verses. I'm not sure what to do. In my head, I feel like it's vocals that it needs, um, rather than, something melodic or something else. But yeah, that's just it. So yeah, let's have a listen.
Alrighty. Nice one. I was feeling that. Very feedback there. Yeah, I mean, I could hear a kind of a jungle remix, I'll be honest with you, but that's
Yeah.
probably my own bias shining through. But even as it is, like it's kind of like a very chill. And I think Yoshi Mojo there in the chat said sub sounding nice. So yeah, it had a lot of nice low end. It's a minimalist,
Hmm.
admittedly, but I think it works. I mean, I didn't think it was
Well,
yeah,
on
go ahead,
that,
go ahead.
my question is, how done is it in your mind? I mean, uh, in terms of calling it minimalist, is it sort of 50% done? You're going to add more? There was a lot of, it seemed like there were passages, there was a lot of room to add more sound, coming in and going out, to develop it more. Because
Hmm.
as the rhythm drew out, you want to continue to introduce some variation every now and then so that
Hmm.
so it certainly lent itself for that. Um, how long was it? Like 6 minutes or so, or
4 minutes.
4 minutes.
4 minutes? Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I agree, and I think like what I would call the verses were I don't want to say minimal, but like I know that it's missing something because it was kind of just the
The
bass and the
structure,
pad.
the structure is there, and the
Hmm.
progressions are there, and you have the whole
Hmm.
cycle of it going, and then and it works all the way from beginning to end, and then
Hmm.
how, I guess that my question is, how much variation do you want to introduce, or
Hmm.
to change it up, or when it comes in for the next round, maybe change up the percussion part a bit just to keep it fresh, and
Hmm.
of course there's more effort in all of that, to continue to, yeah, but certainly it would work for sure.
Yeah, I would say it's probably like 80% done in my mind. And maybe that other 20% is filling in those gaps that I believe are there. But again, it's just like I do I can pinpoint them, but I don't know what to do in them.
Yep.
And that's the issue or my issue.
Yeah, I really liked it as well. And I like that it is sparse enough, and I could totally hear some vocals. I
Mm,
mean, I think you've got the right idea. Um, I would see if you can find maybe a male vocal and a female vocal. I could see even like a duet going back and forth. The male vocal says something, the female says something, a little bit back and
mhm.
forth, really chill. No uh, no love drama happening. Just something really chill. Um, and then around the 3 minute mark where it goes very, very, thin, not
Mhm,
much, then embellish that with a like a solo or like a break of some sort, but just
mhm,
add
mhm,
add some instrumentation there, and then come back again with a finale around 3:30 or something like that. Because
mhm,
there's a spot there that I thought was perfect for a bit of a break from just going back and forth. But
mhm,
yeah, if you could find some vocals, and then once you have the vocals, see if you can add a little bit here and there, but you may not need to add so much.
Mhm.
Because by the time you had vocals and some effects on the vocals, because I think this track lends itself to being very chill. So I
Mhm.
don't think you want too many flourishes, you know. But
Or
I'd
or
love to.
were you planning on singing yourself? Were you going to sing a part, or what was on your
I
mind?
I am deathly afraid of using my vocals
Oh,
on a
yeah.
track. So
Well, that's normal, but
uh,
I think Richard may have an idea there, and to try it out in in the comfort of your
Just
studio or bedroom.
just turn up the reverb. It'll sound great.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. It's true.
Yeah, yeah.
It'll sound
No,
awesome.
it'd be worth trying because you never know. You know, you give it a try, and next thing you know, "Hey, this sounds pretty good."
Mm,
Um,
Yeah, or
mhm.
maybe even some textures too. Not to overdo it, but if it's
yeah.
complementary, you know what I mean? I always stay cautious about that. You don't want to
It
just put
breaks up the
random things.
time more, there's just
Mhm.
more subdivision of the time. Your brain is catching on more pieces. It just keeps it more interesting and,
Mhm.
Yeah.
a little bit subtle things, but it allows the development of the idea, and you have
Mhm.
enough time to sort of do it slowly and,
Mhm.
it, not a lot, but
Yeah. I'd
Great.
love to hear. I'd love to hear some vocals on
okay,
that.
bring it back. We'll listen to it again.
Yeah.
I'll listen to it. I'm
Okay,
all,
noted. Yeah, we'll try something out. Thanks,
Yeah,
guys.
yeah, for
Appreciate it.
sure. But good feedback there.
Agreed.
And I think Richard, you really hit the nail on the head when you said the structure is there. Like the structure really
Oh
is
yeah.
there.
yeah,
Yeah,
for sure.
it's
Yeah. Yeah. Mhm.
So you've reached that point where it's like, oh, what do I do next? It's hard. That's
yeah.
hard.
Sometimes you just have to let it sit too. Give it a few
Yep.
days
Yeah.
Right.
and make a few different versions in case you're worried, right? Obviously,
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
exactly.
like you can
Yeah.
always go back to the one you have,
Mhm.
right? So there's
Hmm.
you're not harming anything. You
For
can,
sure.
but yeah. Anyway, so I'm gonna play a track that. What I'll say about this is a remix. So I got a bunch of dub plates from Juan, who ordered some vinyl. So these are very limited run, raga jungle tunes. And the intro for this tune, after listening, I've been listening to this in my car for months now on repeat. I just can't get enough of how amazing the production is. But I mentioned polyrhythm in some jungle tracks, and this intro is a good example of that, where you have strange timing, little fragments of the sample come back, and it's so subtle. But I remember listening to it, I'm like, man, this is incredible. Like, it's just such a great intro. But I changed the drop in totally. So the original is a great tune, you know what I mean? But Juan forbid me from playing when he's playing any of these tracks. So it's killing me because it's like, so I'm like, okay, if I create my own version, then I'm technically not playing the same track, But I have not actually played out yet. I haven't played this track before. So anyway, I'll let you guys give your feedback and see
What
what you
is
think.
forbidding you from playing that?
One, because he wants to play them. So it's like this is
Oh,
his music that he bought, and he's like, you
oh,
can play it wherever you like if he's not there. But if he's
right.
at the same place as me, suddenly these tunes are not available for me to play.
Okay, right. And
So I'm
what's
just
pardon
like,
my ignorance, but what is a dub plate?
dub plate? Well, in the original definition, it was like a one-off type of record that was used for record pressing. So
Oh,
the old process for making a record, you would make a metal plate and you would actually go to a plant and press it.
oh,
So to test it out before you did a bunch of duplicates, you could make like an acetate version. And
oh,
so this was like a version of the record, but it would actually degrade after time, but it would be a perfectly sounding record. And
oh,
in the dub and reggae and jungle, a lot of the producers back in the day would actually make special tracks just for, let's say they had a gig coming up and or they want to test out a new tune. They would create just like these limited run
hmm,
dub plates. And you'll often hear that in the vocals. It'll be like, you know, new dub plate, you know what I mean? And
hmm,
and exclusive mixes, you know what I mean? And so that's evolved to the digital world where now you have dub plates that are, for example, just a digital file, perhaps. And what it means in that case is more like limited run, which, if you want to read between the lines, I don't know, it's not always the case, but let's say you have a remix of something that you don't have the copyright to do. You know,
Right.
you can do a dub plate. You know what I mean? And no one knows who actually did it necessarily, right? But
Mm.
another thing that I did personally is they're lathe cuts. So you can actually have this new version of dub plate, which is a physical piece of plastic, which literally engraves grooves on a record. And they're like about 80% the sound quality of a normal record.
Okay.
But unlike traditional dub plates, they don't degrade. So you can
Mm.
actually, and they're actually affordable when you consider the cost of just a normal record, quote unquote. I mean, you can get a dub plate lathe cut for a very similar cost, for the kind of records I would get, you know what I mean? Because I have to order them overseas anyway, so it's usually the shipping. So I
Wow.
made a bunch of dub plates and I spun them at the last event we did. We did an all vinyl event, and yeah, so they're very
Huh.
and actually there's probably more, but there's one person in Germany that created like a conversion kit that converts a Technics 1200, like our beloved turntable for DJs, and converts it into a lathe cutter. He created this whole system, and you can literally make. And the guy that made my dub plates was using that system actually, and I think it'll cost you probably like $2,000 or $3,000, I would say Canadian, maybe 5,000 once you, because there's a lot of specialized equipment you need. I don't know. I looked into it.
That's good. No, I had no
Yeah,
idea what it is.
there's an
Now,
RIAA standard for the phonograph that does like a frequency inversion. So when you burn a record or cut a record, this standard converts it or whatever. So there's a whole long thing about it. But anyways, the long story short, Juan ordered, I believe these were lathe cut dub plates, limited edition, and they give you a digital file. So when you buy records these days, they'll also throw you a digital version, right? So he shared with me all his digital copies essentially. So that's the story behind it. But anyways, here's
thanks
the
for that.
remix.
That's
Yeah,
good.
yeah, no problem. I'm glad you asked, because sometimes people don't know, so it might benefit people. So yeah.
Y'all feel
Very cool. How many different samples do you have there, like, or of different tracks, I guess?
Not as many as you might think. Although I should mention, though, I mentioned the intro. I did mash that up, so that's not like the first few bars would be like the original, if you will. But then I threw it into like my DJ software and I started doing the loop roll, so you can hear like a lot of
Okay.
those repeats and stuff. So I didn't want to just have the intro as it was, you know what I mean? So I did like really mash it up.
Okay.
So that essentially would be one track, if you will, just that intro part, if you will, right? Because
Okay.
what I will do is have, let's say, the original part for, let's say, maybe 8 bars or whatever, and then I'll splice in the real-time recording I do with that same sample from my DJ software, but it's still technically one track, but it's
Right.
edited, right? And then I would have the main, like where the bass line part is, that wobble bass part, and then there are some amens there that are kind of washed out. So that's why in the question, I should put that or the comment made was that I double up the drums. I've mentioned this many times, I guess, in other meetups. So like the snare is doubled up and the kicks are doubled up.
Mhm.
So that's why I'm saying it's. But although jungle these days does stuff like that, actually, a lot of times it'll be like a drum machine beat, but you can superimpose an amen break. You know what I mean? And it would fit because all the snares and hits
Mhm. Mhm.
would or kicks, I should say, would fit. So in this particular track, one thing that I had noticed when I was mastering it, or the VST I was using on the Amen tracks, it's not as loud as the snare. Like the snare is much louder and more prominent than the rest of the drums. So that's kind of an effect I was doing on purpose. But I
Mhm.
would say in the old style of jungle, that would be more prominent. You would have like that sample more loud, right?
Mhm.
So it's kind of like my twist on it, if you will. And I think, like I say, there are all kinds of jungle tunes that that use just drum machine sounds more than the amen breaks. But yeah, but that's so yeah. And then there's so speaking of the double up, so then I have like another layer of drum machine, and I have another hi hats. So I add extra hi hats that are complementary to both the main beat and the amens. Um, and then
No,
I
I
do a
love that. I,
bunch.
I love that reggae feel. I mean, it's you've captured that. It's cool. Like that's the backbone of the track.
Right. Yeah, no, I'm glad that worked out because
Mhm.
that was the vibe I was going for. And it's not my normal thing, I would say. Like I'm usually doing things a bit more like neural funk style, if you will. It's another subgenre of drum and bass. But this one, because the intro really is just a proper jungle intro, I thought, okay, you know what? And then with that bass line, it's hard not to have that feel, right? Because it had that, that kind of bouncing feel, and it's a little bit uplifting, you know what I mean? So I thought, okay, this is interesting, and I like, I retroactively fit that into the intro too, so that when it drops, you've already heard that bass line. So that's another technique, if you will, is introduce something And then when you hear it, when it drops, you oh, okay, yeah, I heard that already, but and now it makes sense with the context of that track, right? So sort of bridge the gap.
Mhm.
And then I would say I did a lot of small edits with this track. This one I made a little while ago, but I spent a lot of time cleaning up. There's like there's like literally 5 pauses in that track where it cuts out, and there's like this little sample, and the guy goes, "What was the vocal sample?" I don't know, I forget, but then I think I mentioned it last time. Veek, I bought this sample, like from Bandcamp, and he has like these vocals, drum breaks, and whatnot. And so I just put that like really low volume, but it's there, you know what I mean? So it's kind of a funny little. Like, every time I listen to the track, I hear it anyway, but it may not be sometimes consciously noticed. But I feel like little tiny bits of silence like that can add, and then there's like a little delay. So I think I mentioned that last time. I have like the 1 step delay, so it's like all right, you know what I mean? Like it has like one extra, and it's in time, you know. And
So
then yeah, sorry.
so Lenny, this is primarily drum and bass, but th with jungle elements in it, right? If I was to put a genre to this.
Yeah, I mean, I would say it is jungle, but
Okay.
it may not be what everyone would call it. You know what I mean? I don't
Mm.
know. I'm waiting to hear other people's opinions, to be straight up honest with you, because my own opinion is a little bit different, right? Because I think it is, but I'm not a purist um in that regard, I guess. I don't think I've ever really considered myself a jungle DJ per se, or producer, but I do play jungle, you know what I mean? But
Mm,
I'm usually mixing it in with other stuff, you know? But
okay.
other people who play more, you know what? It's kind of like what am I trying to say here? I it's funny that I love listening to jungle, but then a lot of times I'll make neurofunk. You know, it's just weird how what you listen to and what you make sometimes are different.
Mm,
So in
hmm.
this attempt, I was kind of trying to merge them in a way. I was like, okay, I'm going to try to make something that I listen to. But I think in the end, that's why I say it's inspired by it, you know?
Right.
So, but yeah, it's, like at the end of the day, the genres, I know that we talk about it a lot. I know Phil would always say, oh, I don't care about genres. And I agree with him. At the end of the day, um, I think any music can be good regardless of the genre. You know what I mean? And just because something is a genre, it may not be good. And that's certainly true for, I don't want to be negative, but there's a lot of generic drum and bass out there these days where you got to really sift through a lot of stuff to find things that you may like. You know what I mean? That's certainly the case for me. Like, um, I search through the Beatport Top 100 and maybe I'll find one track if I'm lucky. You know what I mean? So that's a pretty low percentage. Back in the day, you could get maybe 20, 30% of the tracks were good. So I feel like it's gone, but again, I don't want to be Mr. Negative here. Like I think there's so much good music that sometimes the real trick is finding it. You know what I mean? And in a way, if you make it yourself, that's another option, right? So I feel like that's how I've been kind of approaching things these days is that I try to whatchamacallit, incorporate some my own music. So in my DJ sets, I'll throw in my own tunes, and it's nice to have that
Here.
option.
Good for you.
Yeah, and it makes it unique, right? So it'll be like something someone hasn't heard before. So it's like it's not going to just be
What's wrong with that?
right. Exactly. No, and I think that's the beauty of it. And if we go back to what I was saying about the dub plates, that was the whole thing about it, is that the DJs had exclusive records that no one else literally had. So the only way you would ever hear that is when that guy played it and when you went to see him. And over time, these DJs have collected. So Bailey has got like a collection of dub plates that I'm sure would blow our heads off. You know what I mean? But over time, he's got all these, limited run mixes and whatnot.
But if
So
it
yeah,
if the pieces aren't played and heard, what good is it that they're on a dub plate? But they're
but they are
if
played
there's
and heard. That's the thing. Yeah,
oh well, that's great. That's
yeah,
good. That
yeah, yeah. And a lot of the time,
other,
especially in
otherwise
England, where
otherwise they sit on a shelf, and what good is that? So
a lot of them make it onto mixtapes. So back in the day, in the rave days, you would get an entire binder full of like a tape pack, and you'd have literally the recording of every set, and people collect them. And so you can go back and listen to Aphrodite from 1992 at such and such a location, and there it is, preserved for eternity, right? But I do hear you, Richard. It's kind of it's one of those things that is a little bit quirky. When I first encountered it myself, back in the 90s, I actually used to host some parties, you know what I mean? And there was this one DJ, a man called Warwick. He probably a lot of people in Toronto know about him, but he was a record collector, and they were like very competitive. They're like they didn't want other DJs to own the same records. I don't think that's the case in drum and bass. I don't think people take it to that extent. He was Latin jazz of all things, but it's like this record, no one else owns it. And if he goes as a guest to a radio station, he won't even play it because he doesn't want to have people getting pirated recordings of it. So that's another extreme, right? I think that's a little bit odd. But and these are I remember him saying that he would spend like $200-300 sometimes on one record. So they were like, very, very
It's all about exclusivity,
price. Yeah,
having
price
the
was no
only
object.
copy, and yeah.
Right, right, right. So, I think this day and age, that might be considered a little bit too exclusive, frankly, right? But it is what it is. Like whatever works, in my opinion, if the music you play is good and you put, uh, there's people that there's a lot of talent out there. So, this is just another approach. But anyways, thank you guys for
Well, I
listening.
just wanted to say, since you've explored the reggae now, maybe the next one will be reggaeton or something like that. So I'm waiting to hear the next, where it goes to from here, Lenny. What's next?
And our next event will probably be Raga Vibes again, our second one. So it'll be an all vinyl jungle themed. So I'm gonna have to crank out a few jungle tunes. Reggaeton, you never know, could happen. I'll never say never. You know what I mean? I don't see that happening necessarily,
If anyone
but
could
it
make
could.
it, if anyone could make it, it would be you for sure. Awesome.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Thank you. Appreciate that. Hey, Jill, anything you want to say about your track?
Yeah, so just make sure you use the second one I just sent you, Lenny, a little
Oh,
while back, because the first one is actually missing the end of the track.
okay, yeah. I'll
Yeah.
do that right now, Jill, if you want to just mention something
The
about
one
Yeah.
I submitted is missing the end of the track on purpose, though.
So this track is I'm starting a new project. Usually the moniker I go by is GG and the Mix, and that a little bit like Gocha, our other guest here tonight. Um, I'm a chameleon. I like to play with different sounds, different VSTs, and so it's like a playground for me. Music is like a playground. But this particular project is I call it Modus Vox, and it's where I'll explore music for that's more contemplative or will hopefully get the listener to self-reflect a little bit. Um, I want to explore things like the human nature and growth and philosophy, that sort of thing.
Jill, I just want to interrupt you. You may have to resend that email because I just had to make some room in my inbox. But do continue.
Okay, sent
This
and
way I can load it
there
up.
you
Yeah.
go. Forward. Temper mail fence, right?
Yeah, because the last one I got, I don't know, this could be it, but it was 522. Like you probably sent one after that, right?
Yeah, I did. So
Okay.
it's on its way right now.
All right.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah, so it's about I would say maybe 75% done. It's so I'm looking for feedback on how it makes you feel. Don't spend don't focus too much on the arrangement and the mix, although I'm looking for for any type of input, but I haven't really fully mixed it or arranged it. But I'd say it's the majority is there. I may have to, there are some vocals on it. I may have to get those redone. At the very least, pitch correct some of them. It's not me, but yeah. So I look forward to hearing any type of feedback.
Yeah, I still haven't received it, Joe. So I don't know. Are you getting a bounce back by any chance?
Nope. Nope.
Oh,
I sent it to temper@mailfence.
yeah, no, that's the right one. But
Is it a big file? Could it be
Uh,
its
eight,
size?
eight, 8 meg.
okay, I got it now. Okay,
Great.
cool.
Okay.
Alrighty, let's give it a listen.
Okay. Oh,
You become what you think about. This is not philosophy. This is cause and effect.
Cause and effect.
What you hold in mind shapes what you become.
Shapes what you become.
What you repeat internally becomes familiar, becomes normal, becomes you.
I hear the thought. I hear the thought. I don't obey. I don't obey. I hear the thought. I don't obey. I choose what stays.
You become what you think about.
I become what I think about.
You become what you dwell upon.
I become what I focus on. Focus on. I become what I focus on.
The mind rehearses, the body follows. No thought is neutral. No focus is free.
I am not my thoughts, but I choose them. I return to what I want to become.
You become what you think about. I become what I think about.
I become what I think about.
You become what you think about. You become what you think about. What you think about. What you think about.
I choose my focus. I choose my focus. I become what I think about.
Yeah, that was very cool. Oh, that was I was about to ask the question. So that's your wife on the female vocals.
yeah.
Wow, nice. Great job. And were
Thanks.
those samples like the male? Was that like from like some like psychiatrist or something or therapy?
Very good. Well, the whole "you become what you think about" is famous line from Earl Nightingale, who he's like my idol. He's passed away now. That's his line. So
Earl Nightingale, I'm not familiar. Is he like
oh yeah, he's
a writer or?
yeah, he was a writer, a public speaker. He had a radio show called Our Changing World,
Oh, okay.
syndicated radio show. Brilliant man, and super wise. So I have some of his books and a lot of his audios, and so that's what inspired this track. And the male vocals I put into I think it was Audemy, or it's one of the AIs, which I kind of there's part of me that doesn't really want to use AI. That's why at least I'm happy that I have Nicole singing on it, and I kind of like the almost clinical delivery of the AI.
Yeah,
And
it works.
I chose that
I think
line
it
for
works.
that.
Right,
And
right.
with Nicole's more
It's a wonderful contrast. It really works. It
Yeah,
works.
okay,
yeah.
but
And
yeah,
this is yet another example for the people that shut their brains off. And I won't name names, and they're just like, "Oh, AI's bad, AI's
yeah,
bad,"
yeah,
and they
yeah.
start running around like, like puppies. You know what I mean, with their testicles cut off.
Well, it's a
It's
tool.
very,
That'd be like musicians way back saying, "Oh my God, drum machines are bad. Drum machines are bad." It's
they're
the same
silly.
thing. I mean, it's just
These
a
are
tool.
people that don't innovate. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? People who innovate aren't afraid of technology.
Mhm.
People that just
So,
follow the crowd. It's like they take one side. Hey, I'm team blue, or oh, I'm team red.
yeah.
It's like, okay, good, 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 puppy, good, very good.
Did you find that it was too AI, or does this sound
No,
AI?
no, I wouldn't have known. I
Okay,
thought it would have
okay.
been actually the authentic voice, but I do agree that it had a very clinical sound to it, so it probably adds to it. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
And I feel that to echo what Richard said, it's a good contrast because you
It
have like
works
the
because of the contrast. The contrast is so
Nice.
great that it definitely they're like two ends of a spectrum of a
Yeah,
comfort.
yeah,
It's like dialogue or call and response, but from two different universes. So,
yeah, yeah. So how about you, Richard?
and the message is very true too. And
Yeah.
I couldn't help but thinking this is why control of the media was so important to certain people and why it was worth and how effectively you can control and manipulate public,
The people's
opinion.
thoughts. Yeah.
Manufacturing consent is a famous title,
Mhm.
but and so many people are very reactive, so they don't even notice that they're consuming sound bites and repetitive images. Like if you watch your average commercial, for example, I mean, you're seeing like rapid fire images that are very psychologically impactful, and and it's why sometimes you'll talk to someone. I've noticed this with older generation people, and it's like you're talking to CNN or something. It's like you're not even talking to them. They're
That's
just
why I was
repeat.
hoping that this guy doesn't
They're
sound too
like
much like
echoing.
CNN.
They're echoing these thoughts, like you say that or in your track there, that it's what you become. Like you're
Mhm.
literally just repeating.
Yeah.
Or it could be the opposite. It could be Fox News. I'm not picking on CNN here. They're all
Yeah.
garbage to me. And that's
Hmm.
why I hate it so much. And I want to, I've been very open about my dislike for the mainstream media for a very long time. And this is in large part why you've actually articulated in certain ways,
Hmm.
So I think it's a very good track. It's very thought-provoking.
Hmm. Good. That's the idea.
You've captured a really good.
I I liked your wife Nicole's vocal, but I do see at the outset when you said you might think about doing some tuning. I understand why you said that, and you should try it. You can always revert back to an early. I mean, but if you can get it to hit more, it might be more pleasing to your ear. More sound
I
like more polished, maybe more finished.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I heard this was just one take basically, well, or two
Oh, it was
takes, two
cool.
takes. But I shouldn't say that. It was like maybe three different takes, and I just chose different pieces and layered them and all that. But it's not as if we Nicole worked on it for hours. No. How about you, Richard? Did you find the male voice was too artificial?
Um, Well, the way it for me it worked for the reason that I said, Gilles, in that it was like a drama playing out without form, and you
Yeah,
have
yeah.
this voice, laying out these I don't know platitudes or dictum. Tenants, whatever you want to, and then the voices swimming between all of it, it just makes you wonder, is it really that black and white? There's enough
Mhm.
doubt. I think it worked because of how very different they were as
Mhm.
vocal parts. And you have a lot to work with. Your wife Nicole's voice is lovely, so
Mhm.
it really worked for
Okay.
me.
Did you know it was AI, the male voice, or no?
If it weren't, I assumed if it weren't AI, if you go back, 5 years, you might have acquired some libraries, for
Okay.
example, and
Okay.
use these WAV files. That would be another way to do that. But,
Right.
I assumed, yes, you probably pull it off a list or something,
Mhm.
how it was generated.
Okay.
It really didn't matter to me, to be
Right.
honest.
Okay. Good to know. So I think I'll do what you said is
I
what?
was listening more to the phrase itself. I'm
Yeah.
glad that each statement had some depth to it, and you can, and then the other voices singing and putting doubt in your mind, it's great. I thought it worked
Mhm.
really well.
Okay. I may give it a try to just sing or speak because like you said, I think I want to keep that juxtaposition, the difference between the male. So I don't want a male that sings. So I may give it a try to just say those lines in a very similar delivery. So this way at least there'll be a more humanness to the male voice, but in the same style.
It has a very clinical, authoritarian, or from the
Well,
perspective of like of a like an expert or something.
Yeah.
well, but if
You're,
you if you wrote a prompt for that, did you do that? Is that how you realized it?
Yeah, it was
I mean, I'm
it
wondering, is say it in the voice of a television
mm,
announcer, for example, and to
right.
deliver the
yeah.
songs in using that sort of emphasis, or if you could say, a neurologist, physician, or something, and
Yeah.
get a different outcome, So
It was very time consuming because I used that. First of all, there are so many audio AI generators out there that all kinds of flavors. This one, I think it was Audimee that I used, Audimee, I think. And you can choose many different male and females, and you type a prompt. And every
Mhm.
time you send the prompt with a comma, sometimes I try with a comma or a period at the end, just try to get different inflections. Um, and I don't believe I could really with the free version, I don't think I could coach it and say, I want this sung in A or I think it was quite limited. I'm not sure if you can do it in the paid version. But it's just many times just resending that line and okay, this one I think will work. And then another line, do the same thing. So I was telling Nicole because she thinks that he sounds a little creepy.
It is. No, it really is. That's what I mean. It almost
So
sounds like, have you ever seen those documentaries, let's say from the 60s, where they had like
yeah,
the
yeah,
MK Ultra
yeah.
experiments and they
But
have like this guy with the clipboard, you know what I mean? He's like,
yeah, in finding the
our
in
subject
finding the
today
in
is
finding the voice that
receiving
I
5 milligrams of LSD without knowing about it.
in finding the voice that I wanted, you could search, I want a male voice that is late 50s, blah blah blah. You can narrow your search down, and then you have that model to work with. Um, but as much as I spent so much time on it, I think I will. How it is sometimes you work so much on something, then at the end say, well, I may have to just throw it out. So I'm gonna try. I'm gonna try my voice, trying to take this more authoritarian, like you said, Lenny, maybe not authoritarian, but something who has conviction and in the same style, but use my voice. I'll give it a try and see what happens. Like you said, Richard, if it doesn't work, just revert back to it. It's not it works.
Do two different versions.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, no, but that was really good. I really
Okay.
I like the idea and the execution. Everything really works
Hmm.
really well together.
Okay.
Is your idea, Jill, to like because Is this like part of, let's say, a greater project, or is this
Yeah,
like an individual track that you're just trying to?
yeah, it's going to be part of a bigger project called Modus Vox, which stands like it's Latin for like mode of the voice, sort of. So it's the
Okay.
voice really being more or less centered in what it's saying, and it will be
Yeah,
about
you could even
because
have
I've
a
been into
robotic
philosophy
voice.
for so much time, and I want to sort of impart the words of Socrates and all these
Oh, really?
other
Did you
yeah.
study philosophy?
Uh, Not at university, but on my own, yes.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
I
Okay, so
have tons of philosophy books. I love philosophy. I go to philosophy club every month.
oh,
Or
really? So you're
yeah,
familiar with like what was that experiment Plato did with like the projector like on the wall or something like that?
oh
Do
yeah,
you know
yeah,
what I
yeah.
mean?
The cave. Yeah,
Right, right.
yeah,
Okay, okay.
yeah. So
Right. Plato,
I
he
may
came,
bring that
yeah.
to life as well. Yeah,
Okay. No,
yeah. So
that's
that's the
awesome.
idea. Yeah.
I
Did
Some
you
think
get
I
into some Nietzsche too?
yeah, yeah.
I
Will
think
to Power?
building the project around the voice, especially in this group, where almost everything is done instrumentally. It's really a nice
Mhm.
departure from what we hear most of the time. I think that's cool.
Okay. Thanks. Well, thanks for your feedback, guys.
Yeah, yeah, no, thank you for sharing. And so Richard, I could spin the wheel, but
Yeah, I was going to say, don't you want to spin the dial and see? So, in my 15 minutes of fame with you fellows, I wanted to share this link. Before I play my piece, I just wanted to share this link.
sure, sure.
Uh, and I don't know if everyone remembers, but this is the latest. This is volume two of the project that I've been working on. I've played some pieces at this group. In fact, last session in March, if you scroll down, I played the seventh track, I think. And these are the salvaged recordings of my friend Rick Peterson in Austin, Texas, um, recorded in the 90s on what today would be, at the time it was state of the art, but today would be considered primitive electronic instruments. And then I included the URL for the Wavemaker history page in case you're interested. Some of the sounds on this recording was made on this really primitive analog system from Wavemaker. If you're interested in as a history point of interest. But that's volume two. Volume one came out in March of last year. So every year we've released some of these tracks. And my publishing company or whatever, my moniker is Ubiquitous Music, and so it's adding another album to the Ubiquitous Music catalog. And so that's one of my projects that finally, after, I mean, really, I've been working on it since 2024 is when I sort of gathered all these recordings together and started listening to them. Because none of these that are on this album, the album that I shared, were recorded on tape, although a few years earlier they would have been on tape. These started on DAT and eventually were recorded well, I think they were all recorded on DAT. The DAT was transferred to CDs, and then I pulled the files off the CDs and broke them up into waves and then listened to them, and that's what's been mastered into these recordings. Um, for me personally, I'm not much of a post-production person. And, in this group, we often talk about, gee, I'm not sure about mastering and if we should use isotope or how to do all of that. And so I've set it as a goal to get better at that sort of thing. And it's been interesting mixing and then mastering other people's music because I'm listening to it with a different set of ears. And I think I've learned some stuff. And so what I've done more recently is go back to some of my own recordings and then run them through the equalization and mastering process that I figured out to produce these electronic music albums from Rick Peterson that are just pure sound in many cases. So what I did was I went back to some recordings I'm going to share with you what I'm calling Science Part 1. I believe that's what I sent in, Lenny. And this is, I'm looking at my note here. This was finally mastered in 2022, meaning it was recorded probably in 2020, 2021, and then finally mastered in 22 and released on an album called Auslander, along with 5 or 6 other tracks. So there were 5 or 6 that made this little set. It originally was 15 minutes and 26 seconds long, and so it's just long progression of transition from piece to piece to piece, and that was sort of a thing for me at the time. And now I realize no one's going to listen to that. So I've just gone in. I thought, well, there's definitely things in there I want to sort of re-explore. And so I set about setting the equalization and the mastering to bring certain things out to have a better mix than I released in 2022. So I guess I'm trying to share that I've learned something more about mixing and mastering things down, and so I'm really happy about that, and I'm applying it. So I'm sort of bringing life back into some of these older recordings, and I didn't want to subject you to 15 minutes, so I broke it into thirds, and this is part 1 of 3, called Science Part 1. That's my ramble.
All right. And with that, let's give it a whirl.
Very nice. So if I get this correct, this is a recording that you restored?
So I took a, what is it, 15-minute piece, and I tried to decide, this is as much as a human can consume. Here's a good place. I'm going to snip it here. And then, and so I broke it into three pieces so that it's more consumable. Then for that, I re-equalized it, and then I ran it through a plugin alliance utility that I've picked up and just sort of been tweaking and figuring out how to use to try and get it to sound crisper and more high end. But not lose the bottom, not compress it a whole lot, and just sort of figure out what all the settings would be. And that's kind of what I've been noodling with for the last couple of months. So I remastered it. Um, that's what happened.
Was it
Okay,
your
well,
own
it's very
were you the
clean.
composer, Richard, on that track?
Say that again. I'm sorry.
Were you the composer of that track?
That's me. That's what I sound like.
Oh, okay, yeah, no, because I remember your other project that featured that instrument there, the Wave Maker, is it called?
Right. That was volume one of Rick
Right,
Peterson's album.
right, okay. Yeah, so I was expecting like some abstract, organic
well,
track along those lines, and as soon as I heard it, I'm like, okay, that sounds like Richard. I mean, that's
yeah, right.
your sound.
Yeah.
But
No,
like it sounds great. It sounded really good.
no, I did two things. Sorry if I confused. I tooted my own horn that we got Rick Peterson's project out the door. Yay, after a while. And then I played my track. And I guess the reason for doing it was because I wanted you to hear the music. But it's a much better mix than the original one. I'm really happy. So what I released in 2022, this is much superior in my opinion in terms of how crisp it is. The signal is a lot more full. The equalization's better, and so I guess I'm thinking, maybe I should release excerpts, through Bandcamp or something. I'm just trying to figure out what to do with these things. Of course, I could do the new release and remix everything and release it again as a remaster or something like that.
So this was you playing that Wave Master.
Nope. The Wave Maker and
Oh,
okay, sorry. The Rick Peterson's recordings were recorded in the 1990s on WaveMaker and Fairlight computer music instrument, what's called the Fairlight CMI,
okay.
which
Right.
today are primitive.
The
Now you can get
famous,
software VST emulations of them, but in the
right.
time that was like super
Yeah,
digital.
Peter Gabriel, I always associate with the
Absolutely, yeah.
Fairlights, rightly or
Uh,
wrongly, but I remember he
yep.
did a lot with it. And
Only thing comparable at the time was like a synclavier, maybe, until Ensoniq finally released the first relatively low cost keyboard capable of playing back waveforms, and that was probably in the 90s. So, anyways, these recordings were made. They were made on DAT, then they got transferred to CD. My friend Rick, the composer, uh, sort of got sidetracked in his life and isn't really dealing with these things. I went and I salvaged all these recordings. That's what I've been sort of culling through. He's been choosing pieces. A lot of them, as it turns out, if you're interested in all the techno geeky stuff, Lenny, for example, there were like five versions of the same track, and so we had to listen to all five. Which ones, sometimes they were just the same thing, the same track. Sometimes they were different mixes of the same track. A lot of them had ground noise, 60 cycle hum, and
right,
when you run it through the equalization, bring out the high end, and then run it through the compressor for sure. All the signals are equally amplified. And so what it was a little hum in the raw state wave file suddenly, becomes really prominent in your mastered copy. That, I had to figure that out, how to try and compensate for that or look for a different mix. And so that was the whole librarian and curator sort of thing of that first recording. That's what that was all about. And then secondly, I played this excerpt for this other piece, Gilles, which was a piece from a few years ago that got remastered. It's done in Bitwig. Probably at that time it was version 5 with VST plugins, 64-bit VST3s. So it was all played in the DAW and
I
mixed from.
see. I
So they
understand
were
now.
two different things, two different things.
Right.
Right,
Okay.
right. Got it. Got it.
Yeah. No, I mean it sounded really clean and crisp.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. No, it's
Uh, I'd love you to share it at some point, and on another night, just to carve out a little 15 minutes just to show us a little summary of how you use your tools to make it so, what you learned basically.
yeah. And on that note, you can do that pre-recorded or live. Whatever works for you. If you wanted to, you know what I mean. If it's easier to do,
I
or
would,
not do it at all. I mean, it's up to
I,
you. We're just,
I would actually, maybe a panel discussion might be the way to do it because Lenny, I'm of the impression that when you're finished with your mix, you run it through Isotope too, don't you?
Yeah, yeah. I have a lot
Uh-huh.
of inline tools that I'm using
Yep.
these days.
And I know
One
Phil has opinions about this too, and so
Yeah, yeah,
Mm.
isotope like ozone there is one of many different
right.
mastering tools. However, one I did speak to Bailey actually, because one thing I noticed, there's a bunch of I mentioned A sides I think last meetup and about I was really into his tracks. And when you're playing when I play my own tunes, I always have to crank up the gain to have the same perceived loudness as the tunes that are released out there.
I think
And
that's a good thing. I'm an advocate of that, Lenny.
yeah, no, but just to let you know, I'm just yeah, exactly. I'm just being
Your
neutral.
record that means
Yeah,
your recordings have more headroom. And
right.
so when
Compression. Yeah, yeah,
you
yeah.
crank up the amplifier, then
Right,
the speakers and the whole amplification system is at a much higher level. It's working more efficiently. So
right.
you get more of the low end and more of the high end. You really want your amplifier turned up loud and
Mm.
your signal going through it relatively low. That means you have headroom
Yeah,
that you won't peak out. And I've been struggling with that for decades, honestly.
right,
You see all these people, oh, set it for 14 lofts and whatever,
right. No, but
and
it's worse than that though. We're talking 8 LUFS. That's like
yeah,
the average these days. So like a drum and bass tune that is released, 2026. If it's 14 LUFS, it's considered quiet.
I
So
understand.
so and you don't necessarily have to go along with that, but
Right.
that is basically the A and B test. And I almost would say it is unfortunate, frankly, that people
I
got back into
per-
the loudness wars because
my preference
you li
would be my preference would be they turn up the amplifier and then run that 14 luff material through it and then turn up the amp and it's going to sound better.
right,
It
right.
will be a better recording. It'll be have more frequencies in it just because of
Interesting.
the physics of it.
Yeah, and
Mm.
when you play older tracks, it's something I always discuss with people. You'll notice that they're quieter, you know what I mean? And you'll play like a 90s jungle tune and it'll be more like the sound that same volume I would do, for example. But today, just repeating, I guess, but it's like way louder, way louder. But that means it's compressed, right? To your
Well,
point.
but
So
once it gets streamed, though, then the streaming service itself applies its own volume equalization algorithms to everything because they
yeah,
don't want super loud things coming next to quiet things, and so they compensate. They have their own compression that goes.
although one of our members mentioned on Spotify you can turn that off, which is an interesting feature. But I've always wondered if I should have asked if they do. I don't know. A lot of this is geared towards DJs, so I don't know that they really care so much about the streaming services. But actually, it is a consideration. That's actually a huge reason why the tracks are shorter.
Well,
That's one, because
it's totally legitimate in
attention
my mind.
span.
It's legitimate in my mind, Lenny, that if you as the producer have a one channel for distribution in mind, you should mix it for that channel, and the
Right.
mix that you're going to do to press some vinyl is going to be different than when you're going to release to be streamed too. So
Yeah.
that's
Yeah, no, for
totally
sure.
totally legitimate.
Richard,
Yeah,
you have
that
some
makes sense.
tracks on Spotify?
Yes, in fact, everything I publish, if you want, give me a second here. I'll give you the link.
Mhm.
Um,
And
but
and it boosts a lot.
I use a publication service, and so when I say, okay, this is ready, and all the files are uploaded, it goes
Yeah.
to Amazon, it goes to Apple Music, it goes to Spotify.
And when you test
And,
it with A/B with your tracks compared to some commercial track, it raises the volume and it's fine.
If it streams in a sequence, for example, with something before and after it, that's a good question. I'm not sure. It should.
It should.
Yeah, I noticed even my
That's a
tracks
good
were
question.
lower on Spotify, to be honest with you. I don't know, but I don't really, I
And
personally
that
don't care about Spotify. However, I don't want to say that's everyone's attitude should be that.
I
You know
don't
what I
I
mean?
don't go there to listen to music, but I know so many people do, so
Yes.
it's not, again, it's when you're producing and releasing these things, what channel do you have in mind for it to be consumed by? And
Hmm.
whatever that is, in my mind, I'm releasing an album and I'm going to tell my family, hey, my album came out, and they're going to go to Spotify or iTunes or whatever, and that's how they're going to hear it. And
Right.
that's fine. It's appropriate for how it's going to be consumed. Releasing for DJs, different, you know, mechanism
Yeah,
altogether.
yeah, and like I say, there's other mastering tools that people will gravitate towards for that purpose. One of them that I heard was called the God particle, and that one allows you to really like squeeze a lot of the juice out of the fruit, shall we say, and
I use ozone
get,
as well. Just
but yeah, it's I like to know the rules, to break them, and to explore all the different techniques that, or not break them, but I mean to explore different approaches. There's no right or wrong way. That's the beautiful thing about it. But it's really, I mean, that's really the reason for this meetup group, frankly. It's because of these types of discussions. You pick up a lot of good tips and whatnot. But yeah, it's certainly dance music has got its and then even within dance music, right? You talk to Peter and he's got his whole techno engineering, and that's a big deal. You know what I mean? Like they have a very specific like whatchamacallit expectation. And the other thing, I'll be honest with you, that we struggle as like someone that puts on events is dealing with noise complaints, frankly. You would think downtown Toronto, right? Queen Street, Saturday, Friday nights, that people that live in that area would understand that, hey, you just moved into a bar that closes at 6 o'clock in the morning. You know, don't be surprised that you might hear a little bit of bass. But I'm telling you, we really in the drum and bass world, we really like to have the proper representation of all the frequencies. You know what I mean? And a lot of venues are not geared for that. Basically, to make a long story short, I'm trying to be diplomatic here, but some venues are geared more towards, let's say, house music, which might have more emphasis on the mid range, even though it obviously has bass, right? But drum and bass is another animal. Like it really has a lot of bass, you know what I mean? And people are expecting that, right? So let's say you go to some you know what I mean, karaoke bar or something, it may not have that same feel. Well, it certainly won't, right? But yeah, it's so what if you don't mind me asking, Richard, what service do you use? Like DistroKid or CD Baby or something different?
This is Ubiquitous Music publishes through CD Baby. To me,
Okay.
it works. I've been using their services for years and years, and so
Yeah, I have used CD Baby. I like it as well. The only good advantage I found with DistroKid, and this is not an endorsement, but I'm just like I like to look at apples and oranges and see what are the differences. They can get you to Beatport. So if you want your music on Beatport, then DistroKid has that built in. It's not cheap, but you can do it. If you don't care about Beatport, then CD Baby I think is better actually, because you pay like what, $10 per release or something like that. I'm sure they have different
uh,
plans, but
it varies. Yeah, exactly.
right,
Yep.
right.
and
Yeah,
once
and
Plus,
if you stop
go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
if you stop paying, do they take them off or they just stay on the platforms?
No, it's a publication service, and so you upload all your files, the graphics, You attach sort of descriptive information, sounds like artists and things like that. And then they say, hey, you can distribute this way or that way. And they show you all of these channels that are available. Apparently, as a publisher, they have contracts with all of these, Amazon, all the major ones.
Yeah.
Maybe not Beatport to Lenny's point. And then, as Lenny says, then you pay the publication price, whatever it may be. They get a UPC code for you so that your tracks can be individually tracked. Additionally, if you want, you can go through the traditional BMI. You can sign up for that and so if you have published music and own all the rights to it. I usually do that also for what I've published for myself and then other people that I've published their sounds. And then the reason for staying, Lenny, you're making me think about it, is that, I've got more than a decade of history, and so all of my albums are hanging there, plus the two I've released for Rick P. So I have my entire so-called intellectual property is there, and they're tracking the number of streams, and they're collecting their 1/8 of 1 cent for each for whatever it may be, and then they credit to you, and every 5 years you get a check for $53 or whatever it may be. But
Right, right. But yeah,
all of
but
that, all of
it's
that
not
wiring, it's all in the background and it's all there, and I'm
right.
not gonna mess
No,
with
it's a
it.
great service, and the thing is that you pay it once, Jill. I think this is the real question. It's not a subscription service. So like you can pay your $10 or whatever the price is, and then never use it again, but your music will still be there,
I
Right.
see. I
whereas
see.
technically DistroKid, I'll just give you some inside baseball. Technically, DistroKid is a subscription service that you pay yearly, and then you have unlimited releases. And they tell you that if you don't continue paying, that your music is at risk of being deleted.
Yeah,
Oh,
I
that's
can
what's that?
tell you, I can tell you from actual experience that that does not actually happen.
good.
Okay.
If you don't pay them, your music is still there.
Huh.
And I was hoping it would disappear. And I'm like, it just won't go away. I'm not paying these people for years and
But
it's still there. So I can still go back into my account. And I deleted it manually. I was like, this is crazy. And I don't know, I shouldn't really be saying it, but at the end of the day, I opened up a new DistroKid under a different email for my latest ones, you know what I mean? But I still get these nag emails saying, "Oh, your payment for $5 didn't go through," and I've been getting that for like years now.
Oh, wow.
And your
uh,
music is at threat of being deleted. I'm like, please delete it. I'm hoping you would, but they don't.
Well,
So
and that's a really good point too, because a lot of people might treat something like CD Baby or DistroKid as Bandcamp, for example. You just go and you hang your tracks there, and it's not that. It's a publication service, and so
oh yeah, yeah.
um, you pay them a fee, and they're collecting royalties on your behalf. You sign over, and it's all they have
And
legal
there's a ton of
documents.
streaming services, right? Like when you look at the list, you know what I mean? Like
They
Deezer, I mean,
publish
I can't even
to.
name them all. Yeah,
Yeah,
there's a huge list. So
a lot of
it
them in the
is
Orient that I've
different.
never even heard of before. You're absolutely
Wow.
right.
Right, right.
Deezer and all of the Chinese WeChat and all of the
Yeah. YouTube
the
Music is a good example. Like you just showed your
yep.
profile there. Like, there's a lot of people that list subscribe to YouTube Music, you know what I mean? But
So
yeah,
how many people
Bandcamp
find
is
you,
just
Richard?
for Bandcamp, yeah.
Very very few, sadly.
Yeah, no, well, yeah, that's what I would think. Not because of the music, just because you're in
Well,
a sea of
I've
exactly.
heard of people that have 1 million monthly plays. I think
But
Vostok mentioned it actually, and he got
a
like
lot of it
very little
too.
money. So
A lot of it too, exactly. A lot of it too is how much effort will you put into it to promote, and
yes.
so we've talked about the having a good idea part of recording the idea, and getting it down and capturing it the way you like it. We've talked about equalizing and mixing and getting a final master. That, all of these are separate skills. The same person who creates a wonderful song may not be the person who masters it. And then I would even venture that, promoting it is a whole other skill set.
Yeah.
oh yeah, for
And
sure.
you've got to have
Yeah.
and you have to have time to put into it, to to
Mhm.
do posts and get people and direct them to your site so that they create volume. That's all legitimate. I get it, but I don't really have time for all of that.
Yeah,
Right.
and then there's
I'm
the
the
funding
same.
side of it. I literally, this is a topic I've talked about, but I recently was speaking to someone, forget which, I don't know. I was trying to get funding for my company. I was like, hey, if there's money out there, I'll take it. You know what I mean? In fact, I'm going to be using
Sounds
AI
good.
to scour every available program and analyze it for me and to see, okay, spit back like all the programs that I qualify for. Because I'm telling you, sometimes you drill down and then on the last part, oh, you don't qualify. And you're like, I just spent 10 minutes, answering all this crap. You know what I mean? So if I can have AI do that, that's like a huge time saver. But that's a skill set, right? And that was actually the conversation I had. So I said, if you think about it, creative people often could be, maybe they also have a skill in, getting funding, which is really like a kind of a salesperson-ish. And even then, a kind of, I don't know what to say, like saying the right words to win a jury selection. That's a skill set, right? Like it's like a pitching skill, right? If you're good at pitching ideas, for example, right? You may not be good at that as an artist. You know what I mean? You might be really bad at it. You might be okay, or you might be good. And I just find it strange that that skill set is an expectation, both, this is my point, both commercially, because you definitely need that skill set commercially. Someone has to have that skill set, whether you or your agent or somebody, but nonprofit too, right? If you think about arts councils, like the same skill set that makes you good at pitching an idea to some person in Hollywood is probably the same skill set that would be good to pitch some, bureaucrat sitting in some government position that does jury selection. You know what I mean? I don't know. Could be slightly different. And I feel like there's room for like some mentorship to aid artists in this way so that they can navigate some of these you know different challenges and whatnot in terms of if you're a career artist, right? It's a tough
I,
way to make a living. I mean,
I have friends, Lenny, over the years. They've written, local grants to their city arts board and what have you, and a dance group that's looking for funding to
right,
stage a production, that sort of thing. And and I read their grant proposal and correct their grammar and try and make sentences more impactful for them. To your
right,
point of getting they're more concerned about doing the choreography and having the music that match, and the set
exactly,
design and
exactly,
all. And so, absolutely, that's something that maybe you know, to volunteer to help other people, read their, you read their proposal, you can be a little more dispassionate, because it's not your project. You can just concentrate on I see the sentence, I kind of get what you're trying to say, but maybe if you said it this way, it would, it would have more impact,
right,
that sort of thing. Just be more
yeah.
detached from it.
Mhm.
That's all helpful.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, again, I personally believe this is an area where maybe not, but maybe AI could be useful. It might even help you. Like maybe you would want to polish it yourself. You don't want to just do it word by word, but it might even help you with creating the proposal. Who knows, right? Because there's certain
Or
words that you don't want to say that you maybe not don't know, and someone that's on the
you
inside
can you
is
can
like, oh
write
yeah,
you can write an outline and say, hey, extend this,
yeah,
you
Mhm.
know, using this type of approach, or with concern over civic organizations and local economic issues, and see what comes out, and then tweak
either
it.
that or change the attitudes of the juries, maybe. You know what I mean? Like if we keep getting this message out there, like, hey, there's a lot of talented people out there. We certainly have evidence here in this group alone. Um, but what is the selection process about? And it could be that that process
Politics,
is
it's
broken.
usually
Yeah,
politics.
yeah.
Usually
No, I
politics.
know it's ugly. It's ugly. And that's the thing. A lot of artists don't even have the stomach for it. They're just like so out there. You know what I mean? And also, I would say from a commercial perspective, one thing I find very interesting about music, it's very vocalist centered. And I could think about all the TV shows where it's all about the singer. In
Oh
fact, I
yeah.
think I think there's literally a show called The Singer, right? And then when you look at like all these different like America's Got Talent or whatever, like it's always focused. It's weird that they never really go into like you know, like the drummers or the bass players or like other parts of it. It's just like the it seems like the focus of the public is like they can't handle that. You know what I mean? But I wonder, going back in a way to your tractor, Gilles, is that a creation? You know what I mean? Like we've told these people not to care about anything about or except the vocalist. So then they just repeat it back to you like sheep, you know, like, oh, vocalist, vocalist, vocalist. If you kept repeating into their brains over and over again, all you should listen to is instrumentals. All you should listen to is instrumentals. I swear to God, within a year, everyone's going to want to hear instrumentals. So we could create that. We got to get people to change their minds, frankly. I really believe this. It might be easier than trying to play within the system and try to tweak what we're doing so that it works with them. I say it might be easier just to literally have a mind virus put out there and propagate it, and we just change people's minds so that whatever these politicians say doesn't even work anymore. It's just like, sorry, it's like these people are immune. You know what I mean? But it's an idea, right? But anyway, it's very
Oh, you're
good.
muted. You're muted, Richard.
Yeah, I was going to say it takes everyone to make themselves immune, Lenny.
Oh yeah,
Everyone has to be responsible to make themselves immune. And sadly, most people aren't. That's the
yeah.
sad
Well,
state.
look at
Yeah.
the law that they're considering to pass here with social media being banned for children under 16 or something like that. Just as an example, I don't know if you heard about that, Richard or Jill,
Yep.
but
Yep.
it's an
Mhm.
actual consideration,
Well,
and I think that that's
it's
just
passed in
another
Australia,
tangent,
it's passed in New
right?
Zealand, it's passed in
Yeah.
Europe, so it's kind of a trend for sure. Yeah.
So,
I
and I
gotta
think
go,
in a way, oh, okay.
but Richard, give us some thought about having a panel maybe of like you mentioned about talking about your process in mastering, because you've obviously done something good there, because it's your track
Here's
here.
the original wave file played flat. Here's after equalization. Here's
Yeah,
after
yeah. Yeah, and
applying
how
the
you did the
compressor.
equalization and what your thought process was. Yeah,
Happy to do it.
super.
Yeah, I think it'll be helpful. Okay, well, I'll spare you my social media thing. You guys already know about it anyway. But yeah, I
Don't go on about
appreciate. No,
don't
no,
go on about
whatever.
social media. Don't go on about social media.
I'm neutral. I'm even neutral on that subject, to be honest with you. I can see the good and bad, but certainly I understand the dangers. But anyways, I'll leave it at that. Thank you again, guys. Really appreciate it. It's nice to see you. Thank you for
Thanks, Lenny.
sharing and all
Thanks
Nice
your
for
to meet
input.
you,
hosting.
Richard.
Yeah,
We
my
appreciate it,
pleasure.
man.
Yeah,
Appreciate it.
yeah, no problem.
Bye now.
Bye,
Take care.
guys.
All right, have a good one.